Hey there, thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to set up a VPC peering connection between a Cycle VPC on AWS and another VPC on AWS. We're going to start all the way from scratch. So you can see I have an empty hub here. I also have my AWS console here. I've done a little bit of prep work, so I've got some things saved, but for the most part, this is fully from scratch. So first thing we need to do is set up AWS. And when we go to providers and when we look to add a provider, it's going to ask us for an access key and a secret. So we're going to go into IAM and users. Oops, looks like I clicked a little too fast. There we go. And create a user. I like to call this Cycle. We do not need management control console. Okay, and we want to attach a policy directly. EC2 full access is the only policy that we need. Next, create. And it used to be that you could just create your access key right there, but now you have to click into the user and create access key. I usually choose third-party service here. I understand the warning. I don't need a tag, and I create my access key. So I'm going to grab that secret, and I'm going to grab the access key and create. And that should go ahead and verify. There it goes. You can see that AWS is live and we are ready to deploy a server. So let's deploy a server. We're going to be working out of Ohio. Next, we're going to grab a tiny server for this because that's all we need and deploy. Awesome. So that's provisioning. If we go back to the AWS side and we take a look at our VPCs, you can see that the Cycle VPC was just created. So Cycle creates a VPC in that new region, sets everything up so that you can deploy infrastructure into that region. The other thing that we need is the secondary VPC. For this, we're going to create a VPC and just deploy RDS to it. So that's pretty simple here in this console. Although it's not the best user experience in the console, we can get through it. So create VPC. I like to do VPC and more for things like this, but if you want to just create the VPC only and then create the other assets as you go, that's completely fine. It's just a little bit easier to see. I'm going to call this RDS VPC. That CIDR block is fine with me. 2 availability zones is fine. We don't need a single public subnet. 2 private subnets is completely fine. We don't need a NAT gateway. We don't need S3, and we'll create. Okay, excellent. So let's go back to VPCs. And okay, so we have our RDS VPC. Looks like I double named it. I'm just going to change that because that's going to bother me. Save. Great. So we have our Cycle VPC and our RDS VPC, and we want Cycle VPC to be able to talk to the RDS VPC, and the way that we facilitate that is through a peering connection. And so if we click into peering connections, we can create, and that warning is just because I've deleted a few. So let's create, call it my Cycle peering connection. And the requesting VPC is our Cycle VPC, and the accepting VPC is the RDS VPC. And that's really all we have to do for this. And we'll create. And the one thing that you really have to remember to do is accept. Otherwise, when you start setting the routing tables and the security groups, you're going to get black holes. So accept request. Yes. Excellent. And you're going to get a prompt. It's going to say modify the route tables now. Might as well do that. And so I need to have these sitters. So I'm going to open another tab here. Okay. And so we will grab the, can I highlight this? There we go. Grab the Cycle sitter first. We've got the RDS VPC here. And we've got our routes. And we want to edit those routes. And we want to add this route from this sitter. And we want to say that it's coming from a peering connection. And then we want to grab the peering connection that we've created. Excellent. Oh, went back too far. Okay, subnets. Okay, let's see. I don't remember which one exactly I updated, so let's take a look. Route table. That's route table association. Let me click into, oh, route table. Sorry, I clicked subnets. Here we go. Okay, check our routes. We've already updated this one. Let's check the second one. And we'll edit, add a route, same sitter, same peering connection, save changes. Awesome. So we've done that. Let's go back to route tables this time directly, because that's just a little bit simpler. And we also need to update the cycle side. So I'm going to grab the other sitter. Oh, it's the wrong one. Here we are, the 10 dot. And we're going to go to cycle, which is right here. And we're going to add this route. Add routes, add route, peering connection, save changes. Awesome. One other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a security group. And I do need to grab this sitter one more time. And this security group is just going to be strictly for the RDS. So I'll say RDS security. And I don't need a description for this, just a demo. And we'll say RDS VPC, and we're going to add one inbound rule. We're going to say that on 3306, we want to accept from this sitter. And that has added, and let's create. Awesome. So we've got the routing table set up. We have the security group created. We have a server provisioning over here. Looks like it's the first server kind of takes a little bit longer than the rest, so that's taking its time. So let's actually grab an image really quick. So to demo this, I'm going to be deploying a container to this server, logging in, and then using a MySQL client to connect to the remote database. And that remote database doesn't have a public IP, so we're kind of proving that we're using the out-of-band networks there. So I'll just call this SQL client, and we can just literally grab MySQL from Docker Hub. Just about the easiest thing you can do. And we'll import that. And we'll see when I deploy later whether or not I remember to use the environment variable necessary to start that, or if we have to start it twice. But it'll be a fun little surprise for later. So next thing we want to do is pop into RDS. And the one thing that you do have to do before you create your RDS instance is create your subnet group. Now I have one from before. I'm going to delete that just so you can see it from scratch. And let's create this DB subnet group, DB subnet. And we're in the RDS VPC and the availability zone. I don't remember where I deployed to, so let's take a look. RDS VPC ID, here we go. And we are in 2A and 2B. 2A, 2B, subnets. I want all of them. Excellent. That's all it takes. So we're creating a subnet group, and then we're going to databases, and we are going to create a database. I'm going to use standard create. I'm going to grab MySQL. But the process for the rest of these is really, it's very similar. If you get into SQL Server, Oracle, IMDb2, there's some other things you can kind of toggle, but for this, it's just going to be pretty straightforward. I'm going to deploy the free tier because that's the easiest thing to demo. We're going to call this DB because I like to call things DB. We have an admin. I'm going to do a super secure password here. And I'm going to see if I can type it 2 times while talking. Nailed it. Okay. And then I believe that's all we're going to need. Let's take a look. No, we want this. And we also want the DB subnet. We want no public access. We do want the RDS security. We don't want the other one. We don't care which availability zone it goes in. We don't care about the certificate right now. We do want to use password authentication, and we will be deleting that far before we spend $14. So let's create. And that'll take a second to create. And here's AWS trying to get us on some new stuff. This RDS proxy actually looks really neat. I'm excited to look into this more. Maybe we'll do a follow-up video on that at some point, but looks like a cool way to kind of scale out RDS. I'm going to close that. That's going to be creating. Okay, excellent. Go back to the VPCs. This all looks good. Let's see if we have a server online. We have a server online. All right. So let's create demo, production, default, create environment. So just the default environment. Got a lot of documentation on the options there for environments if you need to learn more about them. But for this one, it's just a basic environment. So we're going to deploy a container, call it admin just for fun. And we can leave it stateless. We're not really going to care about the state too much, even though it's a SQL container. We can do the egress only networking and deploy the container. Okay. Oh, haha, here we are. So I did remember. We are going to have to add. So this isn't like just the client, it's MySQL. It will actually create, we're going to call this password because we are so secure. Hit the plus button, save container. It'll actually create a database when I start it here, so I'm just doing that so it doesn't fail. But we are only interested in using the CLI that it comes with. So with Cycle, as you know, we can use this awesome little two-way console. Looks like, is it started yet? Let's see here. It's copying that image over to the server. So once that starts, we can use the two-way console and we can get a shell session. Let me make sure, do I have my terminal up? Awesome. Okay, reset that. There we go. Looks like it's good to go. Copy and paste. Let's go see if that's created yet. Creating. Amazon console, I found you have to refresh really often to get any kind of updates. I actually need to send a nice message to our front end team, congratulating them on how often our portal is actually up to date with things compared to the AWS backend, because this can stick unless you refresh pretty often. So we won't be able to connect to that yet because the database is still connecting. But let's take a look. Is there anything else that we need to look at in here? Servers online. Provider. Nope. That's good. Our image is created. We have that. Excellent. So we are literally just waiting on the database. So one thing that is worth knowing about is this reachability analyzer. So if you are doing this, following this video, you think that you've followed everything that you can, and you just cannot figure out why your connections won't work, you can go into the bar here and say reachability. Let's see if I can type it. Yep. VPC reachability analyzer. And you can use this for more things than just what we're doing here, but I use this specifically when I'm debugging why I can't reach something. And usually it's a simple error. Maybe I didn't save something correctly. Maybe I copy pasted the wrong value. And what you can do is go in to create the path, name that whatever you want. And you can say the source. So usually I'll say the source is one of these cycle instances. It looks like I had a reason. I just recently deleted one. So this might be cached. Let me double check what my actual deployed instances. It's FKJ. So that's FKJ. And the destination type, you can actually even say the peering connection, and you can say PCX, my peering connection. That's the correct one. The AWS console will, and just a little warning, they will cache things that are deleted for quite a while. And they just dropped this little queue thing here, and I was asking it some questions earlier, and it's basically just saying back to me, hey, yeah, we keep stuff, we cache it, and it eventually cleans itself up, which is okay, but it can kind of get you if you're not paying attention. So just beware if you're poking around in here. Sometimes things can be cached. You can create and analyze this path. You can analyze it. We shouldn't need to. This should work, but if we get into a situation where we can't reach it, maybe we'll dive into that on this video. So this is backing up now, which means it's about to come online. Let's click into it. And this endpoint will be necessary. So we're going to grab that. You can see that it's set to port 3306, which that's the default port for the MySQL container. That's also what we added to that security group, and that's the security group that we added to this database. Let's go back. Let's refresh again. Hope that it's done. Oh, it's still backing up. Well, let's see what happens. Let's see if we can hit it. I'm guessing we can't, but might as well. So we're going to say the host, this, the user is admin, and there's a password. Okay. Oh, it must have finished right at the time. So it must be live and then backing up. I get the states there. I don't have those memorized. But here you can see. So we do not have, that is not something that you could connect to over public internet. Let's just prove that. Here's my local machine. I could try to ping it. It might give me like some private address that's advertised, but I couldn't reach it. So I can let's see what happens if I try to hit this. Oh, I don't have MySQL. Okay. Docker. It's all right. We do it live. The demo gods will be kind to me here in about 15 seconds, but I think it's important to show that we can't necessarily connect to it outside of a container that has that VPC peering connection available to it. So good. Docker is helping me by coming online. Let's pull this image. Good Lord, that's a lot of layers. Okay, so here we are. I cut out a little bit here. It looked like my network had a pretty serious issue there, so it took a few minutes to download and run this image. But just to prove the point here, I cannot. Oh. Okay, 1 second. Let's grab this. Okay, MySQL. So I cannot hit this host outside from public internet. So that will just hang forever, right? So it thinks it can resolve the IP, but it can't access it. It can't reach it. So hopefully this has been a really fun kind of introduction to setting up peering connections. Each time you deploy to a new region, you will need to set up another one if you're looking to do a multi-region deployment, as Cycle will create a new VPC each time. If you saw something in this video that you wanted me to extend on, or if you have some ideas for other videos, please leave that in the comments. We love to hear from the people actually watching the videos. And for this one, this is all we've got. So thank you so much for joining.